Good evening. Tonight, a powerful call to action from one of the most influential voices in American politics. Hillary Clinton is sounding the alarm, calling this an all-hands-on-deck moment for women's rights as she warns of a sweeping rollback of decades of hard-fought progress. Nearly 30 years after her groundbreaking 1995 speech in Beijing, where she famously declared that women's rights are human rights, Clinton says the struggle is once again at a crossroads, and this time, the threats are both domestic and global. At a gathering of women's rights advocates in Washington, D.C., she addressed what she described as an intensifying assault on equality, citing policies from the Trump administration, rising authoritarianism abroad, and what she called but dangerous complacency among those who once believed progress was irreversible. Clinton's remarks come at a critical juncture. Since the rollback of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court, reproductive rights in the United States have been thrown into turmoil, with more than a dozen states enacting near-total abortion bans or severe restrictions. Clinton warned that these moves represent more than just isolated legislative battles. They are, in her words, a test of whether we truly believe in equality under the law. She argued that women's autonomy is a bellwether for broader freedoms, saying, "When women lose their rights, democracies lose their soul." The former Secretary of State, Senator, and presidential candidate acknowledged that these are deeply divisive issues, but insisted that protecting reproductive freedom is essential to preserving democracy itself. Her speech was met with sustained applause, reflecting the urgency felt by many in the audience. But Clinton didn't limit her critique to American politics. She pointed to a troubling global trend: the resurgence of authoritarian leaders who seek to curtail women's rights as part of their consolidation of power. From Afghanistan, where the Taliban has barred women from education and public life, to countries in Eastern Europe where nationalist governments are restricting access to abortion and LGBTQ rights, Clinton said the pattern is clear. When strong men rise, she noted, the first targets are always women, their voices, their choices, their ability to participate fully in society. Analysts have echoed this observation, noting that women's rights are often seen as symbolic battlegrounds in the struggle between liberal democracy and authoritarian control. Clinton urged democracies to treat women's equality not as a secondary issue, but as a cornerstone of stability and prosperity. Her comments also underscored the political stakes in the United States heading into the next presidential election. Clinton argued that voters must pay close attention to candidates' positions on issues affecting women, including healthcare access, workplace equality, child care support, and protections against gender-based violence. "This is not a time to sit out," she said. "Every vote will shape the future of women's freedom in this country." Political strategists note that women, especially suburban and young women voters, have been a decisive force in recent elections, and their turnout could once again determine key races. Clinton's remarks are likely to energize progressive organizations that are already mobilizing around these issues, framing the 2026 midterms and 2028 presidential race as referendums on gender equality. Clinton's call to action also touched on economic dimensions of gender inequality. She cited data showing that women, particularly women of color, were disproportionately affected by job losses during the pandemic and continue to face pay gaps in nearly every sector. She argued that economic justice and gender justice are inseparable, saying, "When women are paid fairly, when they can afford childcare, when they are safe from harassment at work, entire economies grow stronger." Experts agree. The World Bank has repeatedly reported that closing gender gaps in labor force participation could boost global GDP by trillions of dollars. Clinton challenged corporate leaders to step up, not just with statements of support, but with concrete policies that promote equal pay, mentorship, and opportunities for advancement. In her speech, Clinton did not shy away from addressing the role of disinformation and online harassment in silencing women. She warned that social media platforms are being weaponized to intimidate female politicians, journalists, and activists, creating a chilling effect that discourages participation in public life. This is not a hypothetical concern. Studies had shown that women in politics face significantly higher levels of abuse and threats online than their male counterparts. Clinton called for stronger accountability from tech companies, as well as digital literacy programs to help young people identify and resist toxic narratives. She framed this as part of the broader struggle for a healthy democracy, arguing that a public square that drives women out of the conversation is no public square at all. Despite the gravity of her message, Clinton struck an optimistic tone about the power of collective action. She praised grassroots movements led by young women and men who are pushing for change, from climate activism to campaigns against gender-based violence. She emphasized that progress has always come from sustained effort, not from one speech or one election. "We have been here before," she reminded her audience, referencing earlier battles for suffrage, civil rights, and reproductive freedom. "And every time, when we stood together, we moved forward." Her words were both a warning and a rallying cry, encouraging listeners not to give in to fatigue or cynicism. As the event concluded, Clinton's message resonated beyond the room, sparking conversations online and across the political spectrum. Supporters praised her for sounding the alarm, while critics accused her of politicizing sensitive issues. But even those who disagree acknowledge that women's rights are once again a central topic in American discourse. For many, Clinton's framing of this as an all-hands-on-deck moment captures the reality that what is at stake is larger than any single policy. It's about the kind of society we want to be, one where equality is guaranteed, or one where progress can be rolled back. As Clinton left the stage, the challenge was clear. The next chapter in the fight for women's rights will be written, not by one leader, but by millions of voices deciding that the future must be more equal than the past.